Yeah, I make it past, so I'm going to crack on and not go with our normal threshold time. So I'll just first of all give a slight caveat that there are some similarities in what I'm doing today to what Mark did yesterday, and I sort of apologise for that, but I didn't know what he was going to say, and obviously he didn't know what I was going to say, and I'd had this sort of, you start this obviously a few days beforehand, and I'd planned it and I'd sort of worked on it, so I've done a little bit of rejigging, but I'm sort of going with it. So don't you just love it when God wants to speak to you in an extraordinary way, not in the way that we would normally expect. So sometimes we hope or we assume or we expect that God will speak to us audibly or through a myriad of pictures or something like that. And that's great when it happens, isn't it? And we all sort of look forward to those moments. But sometimes he chooses to speak to us in the very normal, everyday ways, and that's his way of communicating with us too. And I'll come back to that later. So today I'm back into the Psalms. I'm reading from Psalm 118. And I'm just going to read verses to 24. But I will read it to you anyway. So I will give you thanks, for you answered me. You have become my salvation. The stone the builders rejected has become the capstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvellous in our eyes. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So as I was sort of researching into the history, the significance behind this psalm, I found it all quite fascinating. Although we don't know who the author is, it is probably attributed to King David some 1,000 years before Christ. Now you clever lot probably know all of this, and I confess that I didn't, but this psalm is said to be at the very centre, the very core of the Bible. It is totally centred on rejoicing and praising God, and it leads us direct to Jesus. In Matthew 21:42, Jesus says, "Have you never read the scriptures? The stone the builders rejected has become the capstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvellous in our eyes." And we know that the cornerstone or the capstone is the most vital stone. It supports everything. It just holds everything together. It's the prop, and that's the same for us with Jesus. It tells us that the author is writing this in times of incredible adversity. It's not written when all the ducks are in a row and everything's going really smoothly. It's written when times are really hard. And at this difficult time, the psalmist cried out to God in anguish. Yet right in the midst of all of these huge struggles, this chapter starts and ends with the same verse. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. This psalm is encouraging us to have confidence in God's eternal and unconditional love. How in the midst of our changing situations, circumstances, when things have been put on hold and our security isn't there, it can always be found in Jesus. I guess that's why we can see it's called the Good News Psalm, and I didn't know that bit either. So how did God choose an extraordinary way to put this on my heart and into my head? And this is the Jackanory moment again, for those who are old enough to remember Jackanory. I think this is going to be my next job. So I don't know how I hope it was really good. I hope you managed to get out and do all the things that you wanted to do, and you had fun, we had a bit more freedom, and I just hope it was a great week for you. Mine, on the other hand, was really rubbish. And that happens, nothing to do with COVID. Life is going on outside of COVID, although it does seem at the moment as though that's taken up most of our energy and our conversations. But you may have had a bit of a rough time recently as well. I don't know, we know it happens. We are told as Christians that, we're not promised a trouble-free, the opposite. And if that was the case, if we knew that we were going to get a trouble-free life, people would turn to Jesus for what they could get, not for what we've already been given. But anyway, it was a bit of a rough week, and I really had the desire to sort of to withdraw, to do what I would normally do at times like this, which is to go to the coast. I really wanted to walk along the beach and spend some quiet time with God. My thin place is by the sea, and the rougher the sea, the better. You know, the majesty of the big crashing waves that bang onto the coastline or up against the seawall or whatever. The rhythm, the ebb and flow of the sea as it comes and goes, the untamable power that the waves have. That's where I sort of get my thin place. It's where heaven on earth just seem that little bit closer, and I can really get close to God. Now, the Lincolnshire coast isn't the best, but it is the best here and now. And so I thought, that's where we'll go. We'll go to a nice secluded part of the beach. But I didn't take into account that the world and his wife would probably have that same plan. So we still did manage a bit of a socially distant walk, and I had a bit more of a chat than a power talk with God. But it did help some. And we got back late on in the evening, and there's a Jackson household tradition. If you go to the coast, you have to have fish and chips somewhere along the line. It's just one of those things that's evolved over the years. So I thought, again, it's quite late. It had gone 7 o'clock. There will not be a queue. I'll nip down. It'll be really quiet. No, the world and his wife, again, the other part of the world and his wife, were having fish and chips, and I was 11th in a socially distanced queue. And if you know Netlham Fish Shop, I was almost up to the church. So there I am, slowly moving along the queue, still pondering the week and thinking of a few things, when God spoke to me. Not audibly, no pictures, no clanging of bells and bright lights, no rainbows. As I shuffled along the queue, I got my head down, and just at my feet, quite literally, was a small piece of paper, not much bigger than a sort of a raffle ticket size piece of paper. And on it were 4 typed words. Today is the day. I stared at it for a few moments. I looked around to see if there was anything else around that it was sort of connected to, where it had come from. Nothing else was there. I sort of shuffled it with my foot, see if it moved. It wasn't bubblegum down or anything like that, but it was quite literally at my feet. So I repeated it a few times. Today is the day. Today is the day. Today is the day the Lord has made. It sort of started to just trip off my tongue. I'm thinking, is that the passage? I've heard it quite often. I've said it. I know it's scripture. Where is it from? I can't remember. Had we not had COVID, I might have picked it up and popped it into my pocket. I'm not sure about that one. Maybe, I thought, I knew it was from God. I felt just in my spirit it was from God. Maybe somebody else needed to see that today as well. So I left it there. Now, that may have been a coincidence. It may have been a God incidence. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. Whatever it was, I came home and I wanted to look up where it was from. And I found that it led me to Psalm 118. And again, I read it, a couple of different translations. I always like to do that, just to sort of almost like cross-reference. Folk, I have to tell you this. Those 4 words led me to this psalm. But this psalm carried me out of my troubles, out of my sadness. They reminded me that this is the day that the God has made, and that his love endures forever. My situation hadn't changed. What had happened had still happened, and it was still rubbish. But I was reminded again that God knows everything that is happening to us. I mean, for goodness sake, he knows the number of hairs that are on our head. So he knows what's going on. He knows when we hurt, when we're crying. And I think he cries with us, and he just holds us and just wants to walk through it with us. And what he did was he spoke to me in the most ordinary, everyday way, a way that I wasn't looking for. I'd driven an hour to the coast and I hadn't really heard anything. But then I just knew those 4 words were from him. And I was just so moved. I was reminded on Wednesday at our community group of something that Kath had said a few weeks ago on one of her morning bells, that God is this close. I hadn't remembered that, but it was just so brilliant to think, you know, wherever we are, whatever we're going through, he is this close. So thank you, Kath, for that. And thank you, Ed, for reminding us. I think here the psalmist is encouraging us to rejoice and to praise and to remember Jesus, the capstone, the Alpha and the Omega, to be reminded that true joy is not dependent on our circumstances, but if we allow ourselves to be willing to set our hearts and our hope in Him, He walks with it. He walks with us through whatever it is we're going through. I mean, that's just amazing, isn't it? So I read once, if you're willing to trust a plane or a car to get you to your destination, are you willing to trust God to guide you here on earth and to your eternal destination? So I want to encourage us all today that whatever you're going through, whatever our circumstances, whatever the news tells us, when the last thing we feel like doing is rejoicing because our mood is low and our situation feels out of hand, look for our big, big God in the small, small things, the everyday ways that He wants to communicate with us. And let's be willing to say to God, yeah, Lord, I feel rubbish today, but I choose to rejoice and praise You because You are good and Your love endures forever. And this is the day that the Lord has made. And before we finish with the Lord's Prayer, I hope it worked. I popped on, I'm not as clever as Joy, I couldn't quite link the two together, but I've popped onto the Threshold page a song that we do sing, a worship song that we do sing in church, that our worship band do brilliantly. And it's a song by Lincoln Brewster, Today is the Day. So I want to just really encourage you, after this, go to that song, turn up the volume, break out in song and dance and just praise and rejoice and worship our God, because He is good and He does deserve it, and He knows what we're going through, and He's in the small, small things, everyday life. So let's finish with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be Your name. Your kingdom come, Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are Yours and Yours alone, now and forever. Amen. Okay, have a great day, folks. Lovely to see you, and have a great weekend. Bye.